The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello everybody, Dan Tomaszewski here. Hope you are all doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Michigan and hope it's great where you're at as well. So we're going to talk about an area of marketing today in today's podcast. We're going to talk about the delicate balance between building strong brand and generating immediate demand for your MSP. So we'll discover how you can grow sustainably by leveraging both brand marketing and lead generation strategies. With that being said, though, without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest. We have Pete Busam, who is with Equilibrium Consulting. And how are you doing today, Pete? Oh, you're on mute, Pete.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm doing good, Dan. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Good to see you as well. And so how is life treating you there today?
It's nice. It's nice, cool, kind of nice day in South Carolina instead of having all the humidity and heat that we've had. So real nice day for a change.
Well, I got to say, as summer is beginning to close out, as kids are getting back into school, it's kind of bittersweet because I'm a big fan of summer. I love summertime, but I also like the change of season. I think multiple things, me just, personally, but also in the business. I think, a new season kind of, changes things a bit, gives us the ability to have some, renewed energy and maybe change things up a little bit, especially when it comes to our marketing strategy.
Oh, marketing is definitely seasonal, right? There's peaks and valleys in business, and there's peaks and valleys in business based on schedules and what the vendor partners do to us on saying, I'm going to discontinue this and I'm bringing this on, and
Exactly.
So without a doubt.
And we have to continue to cut through the noise that's out there. There's as we might be doing a shift in strategy, there's continuous shifts in strategy of other marketers that are out there, and we're all competing for that time, competing for that attention. And, so I think it just works out great for us. And so I'm excited for us to be able to, dive deeper into that. And, we're here to talk about difference between, brand marketing and demand gen. With that being said, can you give our audience an explanation of the key differences between the two?
Sure. So, and a lot of times everybody gets them confused or puts them into one pile, which is why we were really looking at this topic. So brand marketing really focuses on the awareness of your brand. Who are you? What you're about. Strong identity, who really about that, the culture of the company, what differentiates you, and helps you build maybe, I guess you would say, an emotional connection to your buyers, right?
Yeah.
Demand is a little different and sounds similar, but it targets an immediate customer, pushes the boundary of, getting to a sales decision versus just saying, hey, like I'm wearing a shirt, this is branding, right? Where, hey, Dan, I want you to buy, right?
Yep.
I'm creating something that's more compelling to pull you in and create that sales moment.
So definitely two different aspects here, right? And, I guess digging a little deeper is how do these differences impact an MSP's overall marketing strategy?
So interesting enough is MSPs don't have a strategy, at least most of them from what we found, being an MSP marketing-centric company, right?
Sure.
And so what I find interesting is many times they consider brand and demand the same thing, and that's why we want to talk about this. But the strategy is you have to build your brand before you start creating demand. And as you build brand, some demand will come into play. People will make calls, they'll filter into top of pipeline type efforts. But
Sure.
you have to strategically say, I've got to brand myself, and people need to know me a little bit. They don't need to know you like you're Mr. Coffee or Xerox or one of the big brand names. I'm not sure, Samsung or whoever it is out there these days. But they do need to recognize your brand in your local community, right, that you're trying to sell to.
Yeah.
And then the demand comes after that. So a strategy always is, well, we bring in a marketing company after our salesperson is failing, right? So we're going to put it on the marketing company to drive it. No, that's demand. That's still demand marketing, right? So the strategy always should be, you should be building brand before you bring that salesperson on board, at least 60 days in advance. So when they start working the phones or they start working in-person events, they're having the conversations and people have at least seen the brand, a newsletter or an email or a flyer or something that goes on.
Yeah, and that brand awareness, what are some of the, key aspects of brand awareness for an organization should MSPs getting out there, right? Because there's multiple ways to position you. Some obviously in our industry, it's very technical and complicating, and people, dislike technology. So that's why they're seeking out an MSP that can, make sure that things are, rolling smoothly for them. But there's other aspects that can be, put out there from a brand building perspective. What are some of the key attributes that an MSP should be, shouting at the rooftop?
Well, I mean, there's always tactics that you can look at, but from a strategic standpoint, you want to show your authenticity to the community that you're going to work in, right? What kind of culture do you have? Are you one of those cutthroat cultures, or do you have a reputation that says, you follow through, you manage, you do the right thing by your client and all of those key operational type aspects, but you've got to bring that out. The best way to launch that is probably through social campaigns, right?
Okay.
Start showing not only topics that are there. The big tip that I always say, everybody, is what you like. That doesn't necessarily mean what your buyer likes.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for a lot of owners and operators and stakeholders to understand, is that just because you like it doesn't mean that's how everybody else buys. And that's one of the things we hear a lot is, well, when I search the web, well, the terms.
Right.
The speeds and feeds. Those things. The typical SMB owner does not. They want to go on a journey that you take them along with you. And social is a great way to not only put something about cybersecurity or an article or a blog, but it's also a great place for you to take a picture of you and put it up there because it's authentic. They get to see you. And remember when I said it's an emotional connection? Start building that relationship. Because, Dan, MSP sales are not because we have the best marketing. It's because we have great relationships. And anybody that says that our final sale is not based on a true key relationship that was built in the cycle, that's it. It's our job as marketeers to help build that relationship, right? And so that brand awareness is just a key way to bring the face of the company or faces of the company, the personality of the company with the brand and the logo, and to kind of hodgepodge it together to something that fits your local geography and goes with it.
Yeah.
So shows your corporate responsibility, etc.
In your experience, when you take a look at the whole balancing act between brand marketing and demand gen, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges with that?
The biggest challenge that I see is marketeers don't work well with sales, and that's why we call most programs. we say most programs should be called not marketing outsource or sales outsource. It should be a sales and marketing program that you look at. And the reason being is sales hears great things in the field, and they can bring it back. and they can bring it back for marketeers to then say, there's a lot of validity in what they're saying, let's turn it back. And then put out new collateral or new sales sheets or new things that are going to be more useful or catered to the sales process that shows that marketing is not working in a vacuum, right? So marketing is usually at a pivot point of the company because they worry about reviews. So if operations aren't getting good Google reviews or good Smileback or whatever tool you use, you know, whatever your CSAT tool is, if you're not getting good reviews, then it makes it hard for them because people look online, people look at that digital profile, and it's there. So the hardest thing is to make sure that sales and marketing are plugged in together. And if they're not, they should be. You know, you should have your sales team meet with the marketing team, or the marketing team needs to meet purposely and purposeful with them to hear what they're saying, because, you know, ultimately they have to explain it in front of the prospect. So, you know.
Yeah. I just saw an interesting post earlier today from an MSP that was indicating how he received a couple calls this morning from prospective clients who just are not happy with their existing provider. And, you know, and there was another comment someone said, hey, must be something in the water, because I've fielded a couple of those calls today myself. And so, you know, it is interesting. You know, I think we can look to our clients for a lot of that information and learning about why do you like us, right? You know, what are the things that you love about us? You know, and what, you know, especially maybe a new client, prospective client you're speaking with, what drew them to you, and also what are the reasons that they're seeking out, you know, your services.
Yep.
You know, I think a lot of that can be incorporated, right?
Those are very important, and we always tell a marketer that when they get on board, go sit in on a sales meeting and listen to what is going on, look at the interaction, listen to the journey, and then take that back, because that can affect how you roll out a website or social media or just any other branded collateral, right? But we always say that a salesperson, it's always good to go ask your customer, like, when you went through the process of selecting us, why did you choose us?
Yeah.
And are we living up to what you said, right? Because there is a whole aspect of care. When you care about a customer, you get stickier, right? And that's part of taking the demand and generating it a little bit deeper, because that relationship then continues to forge them coming back to you every time they have it as a seat at the table versus just a partner, right?
Yeah. And, you know, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but when, you know, you mentioned going back to them and making sure that, you know, things are going as they had anticipated, you know, I'm a firm believer of don't wait too long to ask those questions, because, you know, the longer you wait, I think what ends up happening is, you know, I've heard this from MSPs, that they become fearful of asking later on down the road because they're afraid of hearing what they might not want to hear, right? You know, if you're asking that consistently from the start, it's so much easier to smooth things out than waiting until, you know, 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road, or when they start, you know, referencing your contract, you know, then it's just, it can be too late, and it's very difficult to recover from that.
Yeah. Yeah. When people are frustrated, the longer you wait to address it, the worse it gets. And at some point, they stop listening to you, and they just move on. So, and you know, it's very hard to get a customer. It costs a lot to get a new customer. So you want to hold and make sure that the churn is always good. And you know, brand demand goes not just to prospective customers. It does go to existing clients also. You need to let them know the things that you're doing, the new things that you're doing, and your business reviews are important to do that, but it's okay to send an email out or put stuff in a newsletter that's client related that basically shows that, hey, our brand is continuing to bring new things to the table for you for better cyber resilience. You notice I don't say protection anymore, I say resilience, right? Because nobody's protected anymore. It's just a matter of delay and deterrence. So,
Yep.
but if we have resilience and we keep bringing branded things to them, they keep coming back to us and they continue to spend, and it's easier to let them know things that you're not doing than what you are doing. And when you don't tell them what you are doing, they will go somebody else. What's the old word? If you're not talking to them, somebody else is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
I mean, people want things, they like freshness. We all do. We live in a technology world. We're disappointed because our, latest Samsung phone doesn't have some new update with something flashy, right? And we're always looking to the next thing. And I think, I hear from many MSPs that they're starting to offer a new version of their MSP service each year. There's one specific MSP, has been talking about his 2025 model, which, he's got 2024, and this is what everything that, you're offering. And then in the year 25, these are the new things, and basically it's a fresh new program each year. And I think people like that. And, otherwise they just feel like, this is the same old. And, you get that call of, hey, I don't know if I really need you guys anymore because things are running fine for us.
Yeah.
And they're running fine because of everything that you're doing. And if you don't communicate that, and they aren't aware of those things, then you've lost touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, going a little bit into the, as far as, brand marketing efforts. So how can, let me think how to best phrase this. How can brands effectively integrate their marketing efforts, their brand marketing efforts with demand gen campaigns to achieve optimal results?
So there's a variety of different ways. Probably like the most obvious is when you do a mailer or a bulky mailer where you send them something that's branded, and it sits on their desktop and they always look at it and sits in front of them, or it's something useful like this is a Band-Aid holder,
Yeah.
And you put these things that are in front of them. Some people use sticky posts, Post-it notes that have a brand on it. Great ways to keep your logo in front of them, and then when somebody calls or is talking to them, they look down at their desk and, wow, look at that. Combined, you've got a call, you've got a brand in front of you, and they keep seeing things. And obviously things like drip emails or newsletters or what have you that are coming out. Obviously, email has kind of been pushed a little bit to the side because it's noisy and we hear a lot of things now. But print mail is coming back, right? Bulky mail is coming back. Things that are memorable, things that create an emotion, give your sales, your demand, a reason to call and have a discussion. So, hey, did you get my Band-Aid holder that I sent you? Well, yes, I did. Thank you. Now you're not calling saying, hey, I'm an IT company down the street. You've created something to have a conversation about. You built the relationship. You're making that emotional tie. So now we're moving the brand into emotion and emotion into relationship.
Absolutely. And I think about the direct mail that you mentioned. A lot of people aren't using it, and that's the way to clear through that clutter and capture their attention. And I do recall the days of doing a lot of that, and and really have an entire strategy. We did a lot of postcard campaigns at one point, where and this was more as we were doing a lot more break fix. But we would have it set where, we'd have a postcard mailer that would go out, a couple weeks after we did work with them. Then there'd be one that'd be 30 days. I don't remember the entire cadence, but, it might have been 60 days, 90,
right.
6 months. But we would have all that set up front, and we would have all those postcards ready to roll. And it was just a matter of labeling, getting them out there, and then doing those follow-ups with them.
And one other key. Say the words MDF, Postcards and mailings are usually MDFable by just about everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, don't overlook the opportunities that your vendors know that by helping you, helping to contribute to your success is going to be successful for them. And,
exactly.
Yeah, so always remember to knock on the door of your vendors and know about those programs, because if there are certain thresholds that you need to meet, start working on them now. You might not be ready to, pull the trigger on some type of MDF, but if you need to get to a point where it's going to take you 3 months to, achieve a certain threshold, start working on that so you can leverage that.
And sometimes the vendors will stretch their program a little bit if they show that they'll do that look back over 3 months, 6 months, and if they've shown that you have continuous progress towards, they'll bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
Depending on the company, but they tend to see their rising stars, and they like to work with you because, if you're selling more of their product most likely. Therefore, that means good things for them. So
kind of moving on to our, another area of metrics. What metrics should marketers use to measure the success of brand marketing versus demand generation?
Right. So brand marketing is all about engagement, right? So if you're doing social media or website landing pages or blogs, seeing that people are actually visiting, so anonymous web visitor software to see who's visiting your website and, tying them back to your emails so you can track it all the way through. Like I send an email out, newsletter, email out that shows my blogs. Are people actually clicking and spending time in my website, and are they going anywhere else? That's an engagement, right? That portion of it, when they get to your website, bleeds a little bit into demand, and I'll go into that in a second. But social media, if you have 5 visitors, and it's the same 5 people that are following you, and you're not building your following, then you're not working your brand engagement, right? Okay. Social people, 5 years ago, I would tell you if people are buying from your social, that's unique. Not so much anymore. Your profile and how they see you in the community is shown very much on thought leadership, authenticity, people and the type of company you are, right? Are you pushing sales on everything, or are you showing who you are? So people will engage with different posts, and you can see that through your metrics. So measuring engagement as far as views and likes or reactions, as we would call them across all the platforms, right? The different types of reactions, as well as growing your followers on each one of your pages. And usually the growth is in either Facebook or LinkedIn for your company pages. Right? Those are a couple metrics. Demand is really about top of funnel. Eventually, are those things getting people to either pick up the phone and make a phone call, or are they filling out a form on the website that's bringing in things to top of funnel, right? Where the other part could be where you have a caller or your salesperson is doing some outbound dialing as part of their role, and their job basically where they get some people on the phone to make an appointment to see them and get top of funnel, right? Yeah. So that's where the metrics are is, again, engagement. How many people are following you now? How many people are following you in 3 months? How are you doing on engagement? Are people reacting to your posts? And, if you have 5 now, do you have 25 next month from an engagement perspective? Web visitors, are you seeing the web traffic going up or staying stable or going down, right? Those are all metrics to manage brand. Is my brand taking hold? Engagement is going to be more of form fills, web visitors going to service pages, filling out of forms, making a phone call, or taking a meeting.
So the one thing that you mentioned about is I guess kind of prompted something is I think about a lot of posts that I see for things that capture my attention that are from different marketing different marketers, and the differentiating component is those educational posts that I see. I'll see something and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that's unique. It's interesting. A lot of times I'll do a save post, but typically just because I guess maybe the way I'm wired is I'll save a post a lot and then I'll forget that I saved it. So what I'll typically do is I know how I work, so I'll go to that company's site and like it so that I know I want to get that same kind of educational information again. And, so if I see it, it triggers me to say, this is valuable and I want to hear more from them. And I'll immediately, like that page and, something that I can refer back to. So I'm sure those type of things, those additional likes will influence decision making, right? What are some examples of how those metrics will influence the decision making?
So like any good marketeer, right? As you're doing your branding and you're rolling out, you're going to do what's called lead scoring, right? And the people that engage and start to engage more, you want to start doing something different, maybe something higher value to see if you can attract them. Might be that direct mail piece where you send something to them. It might be something where you're inviting them to an in-person event, a barbecue or something like that, or something that the company's doing, right? Higher value, you start to boil your list down and bring them closer to you and to your team to create that top of funnel and over into the demand bucket, right? As to a marketing qualified lead versus just somebody that you're marketing to. So those metrics over time give you that list of people, and they give you those companies that are attracting or engaging to you. So you should take note of those things, and through your social platforms, you can see who's following you. You can see who liked the post. You can see who engaged with the post. Those are all tools on the back end that you can use to get those metrics. So it's a little bit of manual, but there are tools that will do that for you and allow you to merge and create the famous world called spreadsheets. And some of them, there's plenty of CRMs and platforms that allow you to drop code directly into your website to capture that data as far as engagement and right into lead scoring also. There's many top ones. So,
do you have any case studies where that you can tell us about of a company that really was successful in balancing their brand marketing and with that demand generation?
Yeah, I think we've got some that it also depends on geography. So I will give you a little premise on there's some markets that demand generation and marketing just don't work just because of the amount of competition, or the tertiary market is so small that you're just better off walking the farming fields and shaking hands. You're well spent that way.
Yeah.
But we do have some that basically where they started out before they hired a sales team. They did their marketing for almost 6 months against a very targeted list. And they brought in 2 reps that we were able to take those lists and boil them down to and give them each 200 fairly engaged prospect lists. And then they started working where we did a separate marketing campaign in the demand side, and they started calling along with that. And they get anywhere from 1 to 3 appointments a month each for top of funnel. And in that particular market, you're probably looking at a 4,000 to 6,000 MRR per. So it's very effective when you're getting 1 to 3. If you close 1 out of the 3, then you've got a good run. So
excellent. As we wrap up, can you mention? It's my understanding you guys have some promo offers available. For MSPs. Can you give us a little bit of background about that, what it entails and so on?
So anybody that calls, we have a thing out here, and I think, Dan, you've got the code, WEBMSPEV. right? And if you use that code, whether you call me or you do something online with us in a form and mention that code, you'll get a 25% discount. Now, on our Market Vault, MARKITVAULT, just like the market text on the screen, except Vault at the end instead of text. On our marketvault.com, it's a subscription-based service that if you wanted to launch some brand and some social marketing, you can download those subscriptions right there. And if you use that code, you'll get your 25% off instantly at purchase, right? And happy to chat about that with anybody. My number is there. If you call and you give me that code or you tell me that you heard of us on Everything MSP, I will grant you that. So if you come through and you want a new website and we do the custom website for you, mention that code or that you heard us here, and we'll certainly take that off. And if you go into a full-blown marketing plan with us, we'll give you 25 off your first month, which is a pretty good number when you're looking at a monthly number. So, but we're only doing that for Everything MSP.
I appreciate that.
Nobody else is getting that. So,
thank you. I appreciate that. It's a great offer for our audience, and we do have Pete's number as well as email address and that offer code scrolling in the ticker there. So be sure to look at that. Of course, if you search for Equilibrium Consulting at everythingmsp.com, you can find more information and reach out to them from there as well. One last thing, we want to throw out one last little tip to our audience before we move on here.
You want to hear my one tip?
Yes.
Start doing it. Stop talking about it and start doing. Everybody says, I need marketing, I need to do marketing. Start doing something. Learn, fail fast, fail forward, but start doing it. The longer you wait, the further behind you get. So, put yourself in a position to succeed and learn and do. And remember, just because you like it doesn't mean that your prospect will. So think about them coming to your social or your website and the journey that they want to go on as to how you're going to make them feel and what you're going to do for them. Not a bunch of products.
That is excellent advice. The time is now. Jump on it, and we'd love to hear the stories. So if you, if you do heed this advice and jump at it, reach back out to us. We'd love to hear some success stories out there. So, Pete, as always, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. For all of our listeners out there, until next time, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.